So Tommy Fury defeats KSI barely and questionably and controversially. And I feel pretty vindicated in my prediction video. I said Tommy Fury against Jake Paul, it's a like for like. He knows he's in there with a boxer. He understands what he's doing with him, and that KSI will not be like Jake Paul. He will be unpredictable. He'll be explosive. He'll be fast. He'll be awkward. And he was all of those things and more. He made it a very tricky and difficult fight, and ultimately Tommy Fury will wake up this morning, all right, he won, but he won't feel good about that. He was supposed to knock KSI out. He is the bigger man, the more experienced man by a long way, and yet KSI was able to give him a lot of problems last night and show just how good he is, that he is on the level. He answered a lot of questions. Now, as much as I can't forget the backstory of that, 10 years ago KSI was a kid playing PlayStation, it didn't look anything remotely close to a boxer, and that at that point Tommy Fury was hitting pads with Big John Fury with Tyson in the background. We have to view this fight objectively and kind of disregard that and be honest and go, who should have really won? Forget the backstory. Who out of these two fighters was the best guy? And as much as I thought KSI was actually going to pull this off, and I wanted him to, I even bet on it. I was gutted to just lose money on this decision. So knows how bad KSI feels this morning. I had to take that out of it and watch the fight back today and just be like objective. Okay, what really happened here? Because a lot of people are calling this a robbery. And to me, a robbery is where the fight is clearly a win for one guy, it's not close, but it goes to the other guy. That's an out-and-out robbery. Whereas this was a close fight. And if either guy got the win, because it's close, I'm not going to call it a full-out robbery. Like, it's a bad decision. It should have gone the other way. But robbery is like corruption. I don't think it's a corrupt judge here, but it might have been the wrong decision. And when I was watching it, I'm seeing KSI do things to negate what Tommy Fury does well. It doesn't mean you're necessarily scoring it in his favor, but he really took Tommy out of his comfort zone of landing the jab. KSI made sure he's either all the way out or all the way in. And that mid-range fighting didn't take place so much because KSI, with those quick feet, was so good at closing the distance. And when he would fly in with that right hand and then clinch so that he wasn't able to be paid back if he didn't land. It really just stumped Tommy Fury. He wasn't able to back off and time KSI, or when KSI kept dipping his head to one side, he wasn't able to read that and make him pay for it. And it was just scrappy. And like I said before the fight, a lot of people seeing this clip of me saying 6 rounds is good because you get 3 rounds of real hard, fast energy to blitz this guy. And then if you don't get him out of there, you're only 3 rounds away from the finish line. And then you can make it a gritty dog fight. And KSI has that dog in him. So he kept the fight where he wanted it. And when people complain about this being a scrappy fight, do you expect KSI to stand in front of a guy with a great jab and be within range and get his head pinged off and make life easy for Tommy? No, he doesn't have the same set of skills. So he made the best with what he had and gave himself the best possible opportunity to win this fight. Tommy struggled to make the adjustments. Tommy wasn't landing the jab enough. And when he did land, he didn't follow up with aggression and combinations. And we've seen Tommy just doesn't have that kind of power. Like, he's got power, but it isn't like, wow, one punch knockout power. Like we've seen in so many of his fights now. He is not a finisher, and even when he hurts people, he struggles to finish them. I just think we've seen more vulnerabilities in Tommy Fury's style, and with KSI, we've seen someone who understands how to make the most of his skill set. And I want to give a special shout out to his coaches, because for me on the run up to this, I kept thinking, we've only seen you with guys who are way lower level, who are nowhere near Tommy Fury. How do you know you're ready for that when you haven't been prepared? Well, his coaches did, and that was where I put the responsibility out. Look, they've signed off on this. KSI doesn't need to fight Tommy Fury. He's got millions in the bank. He could have another 3 or 4 fights to prepare for it. They said, you are ready now. And they had to have seen enough in sparring to prove that, and they came with a game plan. He followed the game plan. Tommy didn't follow no game plan. Tommy didn't know what the hell he was doing in there. He was like, all right, I'm just going to try and do this boxing thing against the guy who was fighting a completely different style. And on the inside, it was very scrappy. It wasn't pretty. And I understand, I heard Ariel Helwani say it was unwatchable at one point. I mean, I think that was a bit harsh, but it was a scrappy fight. But we're not here expecting the world's greatest boxing skills from guys who've only been training a few years. Like, if that's what you're wanting, we've got Terence Crawford. But it was a spirited, dogged performance from a guy who hasn't been learning boxing that long. And he proved he could compete. Being brutally honest, when I watched it back, I gave KSI 3 rounds. Rounds 1, 2, and I think it was 5. So it's a draw, right? We're wrong, because there was a point deduction. So for me, based on the data, you can check it out even on the punching stats, KSI outlanded him in 3 rounds. And yeah, Tommy got the other 3, but there was a point deduction. And in my opinion, KSI should have won this fight. That's without the backstory, without the fact that Tommy is bigger, stronger, more experienced, all of that, younger, trained by the Furies, had every advantage. You just got done by a YouTuber, Tommy. Sorry, mate. It's not a good look. That's 2 YouTubers now that Tommy Fury has fought, gone the distance with. He's been knocked down once in 2 of those fights, and he's managed to score a total of 0 knockdowns himself. After all the shit Tommy talked and everything he said, to perform like that, you're just like, this bollocks about him winning world titles and all of that, mate. You're literally having life and death with YouTubers. You're going to split decisions. The fact that he is making so much money just because of his family is what we're doing with him. He's a nice guy and all of that, but none of the YouTube fans ever wanted to see him anyway. He wasn't the reason why we bought into this. It was KSI versus Jake Paul. It's always been KSI versus Jake Paul. And I understand KSI probably will feel hard done by, and rightly so, for the rematch. He'll want to take that rematch. But it ain't the fight that the people want. The people have always wanted KSI versus Jake Paul. And it's time to settle that. You've both gone close with Tommy. We know that the levels are very close between the 2 of them. And now is the time to make that fight. Actually, this whole thing leaves Tommy in a really weird place, because you're barely, arguably better than these YouTube guys, but you're supposed to be way better. And you're talking about world titles and all of that. I mean, knows what state his career is in mentally after this, because he has once and for all undoubtedly had to go deep in his heart and actually face up to the fact that you're not as good as you thought you were. And when that realization hits a man, pretty interesting to think, can you get up in the morning and train just as hard knowing these lads who should be nowhere near you are right on your case, despite minimal training by comparison? You should be out of sight. If KSI or Jake Paul had all of that training that Tommy Fury has had, and they'd been raised as Furies in some alternate universe, well, they would have blitzed him, because they've already matched him with barely any training compared to him. Let's look at what people have been saying anyway about this fight.
No matter what and what style it is, a win is a win.
That's really not, though, is it, Tommy? Not when you have all the advantages and you have the razor close decision, which is very debatable. The win isn't a win.
Months ago that I beat these 2 inside 12 months. And guess what? I'm sitting here. I beat Jake Paul on his own show in Saudi. I beat KSI on his own show in Manchester. You know, I'm the head of this table now.
They own the table. You're sitting there at their discretion, bro. You could be removed at any second. No offense, but come on.
You know, there's nobody else that can call the shots. I am the man.
Literally, Misfits are owned by KSI. He literally calls the shots. It's sort of his job.
In crossover boxing now. I run it.
I run crossover boxing. It was, I'm going to destroy it, now I run it. You see the narrative switch there? And that's because he knows, like, this is my level.
And the ref was quick to take a point off me for one offence.
Mate, he literally hit him on the back of the head 3 times in a row and you got warned. Like, I don't know what you want, man.
And was it my best performance? No, absolutely not. But we knew it was going to be a stinkfest. Because one man, he didn't want to come to fight.
See, this would all be well and good if he didn't outland you in 3 rounds out of the 6, bro. And because Tommy's angry because he didn't fight Tommy like Jake Paul did, well, tough shit, bro. That, you know, you can fight how you want. Don't get me wrong, if KSI had done what Dylan Dennis had done, we'd be having a completely different conversation, but that's not what happened. You got outlanded, bro, in 3 rounds.
So every single fight that happens now, it's on my terms.
The only reason the arenas were sold out was because of the dance partners you had. They don't need you, man. If Tommy Fury was lined up to fight anyone else other than these guys, nobody would really care. And I don't say that in a way to talk shit about the guy. It's just truth. The reason why we know that is because Tommy Fury's never sold a ticket or main evented in his life without KSI or Jake Paul. It's not happened. So they don't need him for anything.
What do you want next for, Tommy?
Well, look at the crowds.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
Big up to everybody who fought on the bill as well. They would give their all. And let me tell you, this has put conventional boxing out of business, because this is quality. Because you got ordinary kids with Instagram followers, what people love, giving their all.
Sometimes John Fury can be such a nice guy and like really come across well. It's mad that that's the same person who literally showed his arse out the other day and threatened to bum KSI. But we love you, John. So now that we know the level that Tommy Fury is at, which is that this level, we kind of don't need to hold him up as the measuring stick anymore. I just hope that they move beyond him. They settle their differences against each other. KSI, Jake Paul, that's the only fight people want to see after this. We don't need more rematches with Tommy. Don't get me wrong, if they want to take them, they're entitled to, because they're the ones who've got to live with it, and I understand. But the fans, they only want one fight. So let's not delay anymore. I hope they make that one next. Jake Paul, KSI, let's get it on. But for now, don't forget to hit that like button, stay subscribed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.